Welcome to Mr.Terror Tales, where we dive into the deepest corners of fear and the unknown. Tonight we have 3 chilling stories that will make you question the people closest to you. These are the tales of lovers who disappeared. But did they vanish or were they taken? Stay tuned if you dare. It was a cold October night when Emily disappeared. She and her boyfriend, Mark, had gone hiking into the forest near their small cabin in the Appalachian mountains. The trees were bare and the air was sharp with the bite of early winter. The wind howled through the branches, a constant reminder of nature's power. But it wasn't the wind that sent shivers down Mark's spine. It was the silence. Mark had been leading the way down a familiar path, the one they always took when they wanted to escape from the hustle of life. But tonight, it felt different. The usual chirping of crickets and rustling of small animals was gone. In its place, a thick, oppressive silence. The kind that makes you wonder if you're being watched. They reached a clearing, and Mark turned to see Emily behind him, standing motionless. Her eyes were fixed on something in the distance, her lips trembling as if she were about to speak, but no sound came out. When Mark called her name, she didn't respond. He stepped closer, but before he could reach her, she turned and dashed deeper into the woods. Mark ran after her, calling her name, but the deeper into the forest he went, the darker and colder it became. The trees loomed overhead like towering shadows, blocking out the light of the moon. The further he ran, the harder it became to breathe. His legs were heavy, his heart pounding in his chest. And then, just as suddenly as she had fled, Emily was gone. No sign of her, no footprints, just the eerie stillness of the woods. Days passed, but Emily was never found. Search parties combed the woods, but it was as if she had vanished into thin air. Mark was never the same after that night. Some say he still wanders those woods, searching for her, calling her name into the silence. But others believe something much darker is out there, something that took Emily away. And it's waiting for anyone else who dares enter. In the small town of Ashford, nestled beside a fast-moving river, there was an old stone bridge. It was said to be cursed, built centuries ago during a time of tragedy. And it was there on a foggy summer evening that Claire disappeared. Claire and her boyfriend Luke often visited the bridge, a place they felt connected to each other, a place where they shared their dreams. But tonight, the air was thick with an unsettling fog that rolled off the river like an approaching storm. The temperature had dropped drastically, and the world felt strangely distorted. They stood on the bridge, gazing at the water below. The moonlight barely pierced the fog, casting long shadows that seemed to move of their own accord. Luke held Claire close. But even with the comfort of his touch, Claire couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. It wasn't until the temperature plummeted even further that she gasped and pulled away, her breath visible in the cold air. "Do you feel that?" she whispered. Luke didn't answer immediately. He was staring ahead, transfixed. Something was watching them from the other side of the bridge. Without warning, Claire stepped toward the edge, her eyes fixed on something across the bridge, something Luke couldn't see. She was in a trance, her body moving as if controlled by an unseen force. Luke reached out to grab her, but as soon as he touched her, she was gone. No scream, no sound. She simply vanished into thin air, swallowed by the fog. Luke searched for her desperately, calling her name. but the mist was thick, and the bridge now seemed endless. The next morning, when the fog had lifted, the bridge was empty. There were no signs of a struggle, no footprints, nothing. Claire was gone, and Luke was left to question if she had truly disappeared, or if she had been taken by something that had always lingered beneath the surface of that bridge. The third story is one of love turned to obsession. In the heart of a quiet village stood an old manor, abandoned for decades. The manor was home to a young couple, Daniel and Sarah, who had recently moved in. Sarah was an artist, and Daniel, her devoted partner, admired her talent. One evening, Sarah began a portrait of Daniel, capturing him as he sat by the fireplace. But as the days went on, something strange began to happen. Every time Sarah looked at her canvas, she felt something was wrong. She would walk late into the night, yet the portrait was never quite right. Daniel's face seemed to shift, becoming more distant, more hollow, with each stroke of her brush. As the days passed, Sarah grew more obsessed with the portrait, spending hours staring at it, as if trying to unlock some hidden meaning. Daniel at first watched with concern, but soon his worry turned to dread. One stormy night, Daniel awoke to find the house eerily silent. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, and the rain beat against the roof like a drum. He called out for Sarah, but received no answer. Panic set in as he searched the manor, but she was nowhere to be found. The only thing he found was the portrait, and it was no longer of him. The figure in the painting was unfamiliar, with hollow sunken eyes, a twisted mocking grin, and the unmistakable presence of something otherworldly. Frantically, Daniel turned to the room where Sarah had been painting, but the door was locked. When he finally broke it open, the room was empty, except for a single note on the floor, written in Sarah's delicate handwriting. "I had to let him in, Daniel. I had to." The note was signed with a single final stroke of her brush. To this day, no one has seen Sarah, and the manor remains abandoned. But if you visit at night, some say you can still hear the scratching of a paintbrush and see her figure forever trapped inside the portrait, her face distorted and lifeless, just like the one who took her away. Thank you for listening to tonight's Terror Tales. If these stories have left you questioning the bonds of love, remember, sometimes the ones closest to you are the most dangerous, and sometimes they disappear for reasons far darker than you could ever imagine. Until next time,